Welcome to the Couples Podcast with Jason and Ellen, where we discuss long-term partnership, parenting, and how to keep your most important relationships thriving for the long haul.
I'm Jason, an entrepreneur, founder of the Relationship School, author of Getting to Zero, and coach for founders and CEOs and couples.
I'm Ellen, a couples therapist and coach, teaching and writing about relational longevity.
We've been married for 18 years. We're raising 2 teenagers, and we've been working with people on their relationships for 60 years combined.
We care about relationships, health, nature, humanity, and the vibe in your home. We live and breathe this shit. Come join us. Welcome back to the Couples Podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Jason.
And I'm Ellen, and we're so glad you're here.
Yeah, let's get into it. We're going to talk about divorce today.
Yeah, at the end of our last podcast that we recorded, you made a comment about divorce.
Yeah.
And
flippant comment.
It was a little flippant.
Context and
yeah. So I wanted to just give a little airtime to, some of our thoughts on what we've seen and what we recognize and what we've learned about divorce in this society today.
Yeah. So this is relevant if you're thinking about divorce, if you've been divorced, or if you know someone who's been divorced, like your parents or friends. I think you'll learn something here. Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah. There's a lot of places we could start.
Yeah.
Maybe we start with just the stats. Half of marriages end in divorce. It's supposedly the stats, and it's pretty consistent year in and year out for decades.
Well,
what's according to most people and most studies.
Yeah, well, I want to go even further back because part of what I wanted to make sure I shared today was in some of my own reading. I think that this is directly from Helen Fisher, who's a researcher, and she's like a archaeological research about human relationships, this socio-biological aspects of human relationships. And she has passed, but she's written some really wonderful books. And in one of them, she talks about how, in terms of evolution, in all the studies, in looking at all the data from thousands of years, whatever we've got, and in looking at every different kind of society, everything from, modern hunter-gathering societies to, all across the world, the divorce rate when people are allowed to divorce is around 40%. And so her take on that as an evolutionary sociobiologist kind of person is this is normal.
Yeah.
It is a normal human experience that about close to half of all partnerships will not be for life. And when I read that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm I actually feel wow, that half of the population that partners does that for life is pretty freaking amazing because it's actually difficult to do. You don't know what's going to happen in life. You don't know how you're going to grow and change. You don't know what you're going to have to face in yourself and together. Yeah. And that half of those relationships are for life is actually a really big number in a way.
Well, and we could put some moral morality on that people stay when they probably should separate sometimes. The 50% you're talking about that.
I'm not talking about quality of relationship at all.
I'm just talking about staying.
I'm just talking about some people make it throughout life as a couple. Some people don't or choose not to. Some people choose to stay together. Some people choose to leave. And in both of those camps, I could see that maybe some people choose to leave for reasons that they didn't really need to.
Yeah.
And in the camp of people who stay together, maybe some of those people stay together and they didn't really need to or should have. So in both sides, I'm was that what was best? Is that, it's, again, we could, I don't need to pass judgment on that choice right now. But obviously, we're in the business of helping people have more fulfilling relationships. So we're going to talk about that. But I think just in the sense of the raw numbers across society, especially where people are allowed to. And, in some societies, it's a lot easier to get divorced than in how it is now. It's really, it's like, can be traumatic for people to get divorced. I think most of the people I know this day and age had really difficult divorces and continue to have difficult lives figuring out kids and exes and resources. It's deeply stressful, expensive, painful. And I wish that was not the case.
Yeah.
You know?
Like it'd be better if there was less judgment about it, less difficulty, and it was just two people agreed, hey, it's time to separate.
Like more support for it. Because if we look at it as like just, this is kind of a biological number. And actually she looked at when it happens, and it happens, there's a big rise in divorce. It's 3 to 4 years after the first kid, or after the marriage. And again, there's biology that supports that a lot changes neurochemically in that time. And sort of biology supports this like initial partnering very much. I mean, we're like, you know, all the infatuation and honeymoon stuff, like that's all really cool stuff. That's a really cool phase of relationship. And it changes over time because our bodies move on to other things besides getting us bonded and procreating. And then a lot of people part ways at that point. And that's, you know, it's like, what if we just were like, yeah, that's normal.
And that's okay.
How do we support kids and families? If that's just kind of human biology, which the data shows that it is.
Yeah.
Like we could have a society where we support families and individuals better than bringing them into courts. And, you know, it's just like, and I know it gets contentious and ugly. I mean, that's part of, we have to have ways to deal with that, but it also doesn't maybe have to be always like that.
And I do see that I have friends and clients who have gotten divorced amicably, and there was no big nightmare. So it also happens that people can do what we're talking about.
I think that's the rare exception.
But I think it's less common.
I mean, And I think over time, especially if you have children and then they start partnering with other people, like it just gets really difficult. And I just want to recognize that. And like, I care about that. That's not great for humans. It's not great for their children. It's like this, you know, but I think the way our world is set up right now, and nuclear families and everyone's in their own house and everybody has to have their own stuff, and we don't have community and social support, and resources are really hard to come by in this society. And
there's social conditioning about the shame that you're struggling in your relationship. You shouldn't be struggling. Why are you the only one struggling? Right, everybody paints a certain picture of how they're doing in their marriage, and all of a sudden you find out the couple's getting divorced down the road, and you're like, what?
Right.
I thought they were great.
Right. I mean, we see so many couples in our practices that probably most of their friends think they're doing fine, you know, and they're not. And we want a world where it's more out in the open, that this is not easy. It's not a given that your partnership is just going to like work for the rest of your life, and that there's things to learn, and that's really okay and normal. And there's even ways to go about separating and divorcing that are less horrible for everybody. You know, and it's still just really, I think even in the best scenarios, it's a lot for a family. And it's, anyway, I just wanted to put that out there that, you know, it's normal.
Yeah.
But we don't, as a society, treat it like it's normal. We put a big taboo or we have judgment on that.
Yeah. Yeah. We leave very little permission and room for friendships and relationships to change. And
that too.
For us to change, and we're not a fit anymore. That's okay. Let's go our separate ways. Let's try to find a way to be great with our kids now that we're going to be a family that's living in 2 homes. Yeah, and I think there's a lot to say here. I'm curious.
There's so much.
Where you want to start?
Well, you were starting to bring out like, okay, so let's say half couples stay together, half don't. You were saying, well, the couples that stay together aren't necessarily thriving.
Yeah, they get more, they get less societal judgment They get more accolades. Wow, you've been together 30 years, even though you're miserable. There's a lot of people who stay married who are very unhappy, unfulfilled, still keeping each other at an arm's length, hearts closed, totally on lockdown, waiting for the kids to leave the home and then they'll get a divorce. Or they don't want to lose and be alone, so they just stay together because, like, I don't want to deal with dating at my age. I'll stay in this miserable marriage. That's just not talked about enough. What's talked about more is, oh, you failed because you're getting a divorce, or you stayed together, so congratulations. Wow, you guys must be great.
Yeah.
It's just this really superficial take on, something that's way more complex. I think it's just my own opinion here. This is my own anecdotal experiences. I'd say 5% or less of couples who really, of that 50% who stay married, 5% or less are actually rocking it and fulfilled and still really good friends and have a vibrant life together, sex life. They're on the same page about, we're doing this journey. They have challenges, of course, but they're doing well. I think it's a very small number.
I think it's a minority. I don't know if I could put a percent on it, but I think it's a minority. I mean, I think when we were young, single adults, when I was looking around at the world, I was like, married people don't seem psyched.
Yeah,
they seem complacent and like not into each other, and that doesn't look fun. I maybe marriage ruins your relationship. I used to think that. Yeah. Like, why would I get married? People seem kind of not into that, into their relationship anymore. And so that we had to, we learned I could co-create something. I could do it however I wanted. Well, how could I make it interesting and fun?
Yeah.
And inspiring for me? I mean, we can all do that, but not everyone does.
No.
Or knows how. And so
a lot of people buy into this social script that you should get married, and so we do, but there's not a lot of intentionality or really digging into, like, hold on, what does this mean to me, and how do I really want to make this amazing, and knowing that it could be hard, like what do we want to co-create here? I just think people don't do a lot of it. We completely underestimate that. We don't look for, we're like, we're in love, it'll be great. Yeah.
But we don't realize that we're going to grow and evolve, and that state is going to shift, and we're going to have to be like business partners in a way, even if we're not business partners at work. If we have to, if we're raising kids, or we have a home, if there's things we share, there's life to manage, there's a lot to do together. And how do we do that in a way that feels good to both of us? A lot of people aren't thinking about that.
Right.
So I just wanted to say, like, help normalize, also help recognize that it is really painful in this society to get divorced. And I think if we look at the camp of people that do get divorced, I think there are times when people, and people don't really dig in to learn how to have a better relationship. They wait way too long to get help. If they do, there's so much water under the bridge sometimes by the time they come to therapy or coaching. It's like, whoa, 20 years of really, creating resentment and doing things in a way that felt so insensitive and non-collaborative and unresolved pain. And it's hard. That can be really hard. So sometimes people get help too late, too little, too late. And there's some people who, they leave they realize, they relationship isn't working or functional and I can't make it work. Fine. You leave. We want people, if they are going to enter into another relationship with, which most people do, again, the statistics, it's like people keep getting remarried because we have a strong pull towards pair bonding.
Yeah.
They maybe haven't learned or grown or developed themselves or understand intimate relationships any better.
Yeah.
Just sort of were like, you know what? I was with the wrong person. I just need a different person. And that might be true sometimes, but I'd say you also, now you're shaking your head because you're like, no, it isn't so much about the other person as much as it's about I think the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say you can find out over many, many years that it's the wrong, quote, wrong person. But if we define that, it just means, oh, I'm with someone who, now that I am in my second marriage, let's say, or second relationship after divorce, and I learned a lot of lessons. I put myself in therapy or coaching, and I wanted to understand what made this not work so that I don't repeat it in the next relationship. And let's say I fell in love with someone who didn't do that and who has no interest in that. Because when we fall in love with someone, it's not like it's like our something deeper is picking our partner.
It's not the most rational process, and we can't really get around that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so let's say they're a couple years in and it starts to get hard, and the other person just has no interest in talking about the relationship, repairing any of the mistakes. They don't take responsibility for their part. Yeah, you picked a person who is a bummer because they refuse to be a teammate.
Yeah.
And in that case, it's like, well, did I pick the wrong person? Well, you could take that frame, or you could say, I picked the right person to learn the lessons I need to, which is to, stand up for myself, use my voice, and then maybe finally leave. There's each of us has a different series of curriculum and lessons that we need to learn along the way. Mm-hmm. And so it's obviously it's complicated, but we're saying it's less about the person and more about, we together didn't know how to do this, and we got into some bad habits. And then we never, like Ellen was saying, we didn't ask for help. We didn't go learn. We couldn't
get on the same page about
winging it.
Yeah.
And we just kind of sucked it up. And we found a lot of compensatory patterns that worked.
Like, we got busy, or
got really busy. The kids came and we just sort of went to our, isolated.
We just stopped talking about things that were hard.
Yeah. We just talked about kids and logistics, and that we became roommates, and that kind of worked for a decade. Mm-hmm. Well, what you didn't do is learn how to communicate better, listen better, repair better. And that's a lot of couples.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And there's so much this is such a societal blind spot that you would have to learn how to parent, how to be a collaborative partner that, and the importance of having a shared vision and working with your values in such a way that you can, create a shared life. Mm-hmm. That's just not like taught in school. Yeah. And this is part of why you started the relationship school. So, it's deep. And we think that if we're, the fairy tale story is if you just fall in love, that takes care of everything. But reality shows us that's not true. It's not enough. And you can really love someone and still leave them. Mm-hmm. Actually, both can be true.
Yeah.
But these attachment relationships function really differently, and they play a really different role in our life. And we really need them to be functioning at a high quality of connection over time in order to be okay.
Yeah.
We really do. Unless both people agree that they just don't want to really interact much or have much that they share. And if that's good for both people, then that's, I guess, okay.
Sure. Yeah. People will find ways to make it work.
Yeah.
To stay together.
Yeah.
I think a couple things I'd want to add here before we wrap up today is, if you do divorce, you want to kind of look in the mirror and basically answer this question: did I do everything I could to make this work, including therapy, coaching, reading, studying, getting someone else's feedback, trying with my partner in all kinds of myriad of ways, and I'd consistently give it my best, and what I'm not talking about is winging it in your head. I'm talking about actually asking for help and getting a lot of external support, because I just think you're going to be able to live more guilt and shame free after you divorce, because you are being judged, unfortunately, by society or your friends
or yourself.
And you want to leave being like, hey, I gave it my best, and I really believe that. And I'm going to learn everything I can about myself before I get into the next relationship. I think that's a good way to,
right. Or you can also learn a lot in your next relationship, because there's this idea that like, I'll learn it all by myself. But the truth is, the next relationship starts and the learning's back on, because we're all vulnerable to doing our patterns. Sometimes, the things that worked in our childhood families aren't really what works in adult partnerships. The things that kept us safe or connected to the people we depended on as kids can be quite different from what will keep us safe and connected to our partners as adults. Like with adults, we want a lot more transparency, and collaboration and mutual interest. Like there's all these things that probably weren't part of what we grew up learning.
Yeah.
So, once you get into your next partnership, process that prior relationship. A lot of people jump into the next thing and it's sort of like piggybacking, and you don't really, you can just be like, oh yeah, that was just the wrong person. It can reinforce that versus, if I want to have something that works longer term, that has longevity, I got to think about what does that mean and what would support that. And then I need to be able to talk and plan and share with my partner about that. Like we need to be a team and collaborating around that. And that's super important. So it is sort of in your next partnership, there's lots to practice and make sure you're both doing so that again, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, there are things that long-term relationships that are going to support long-term relationships that are important to keep in mind.
Yeah. Maybe we could just say something about to the people who are thinking about getting divorced, listening. I used to have an opinion about this that I've since changed, which was, if you're kind of miserable, divorce is the best move and you will feel better on the other side. I sort of had that kind of belief. And then enough friends and clients showed me that on the other side of a divorce actually didn't get any easier.
Oh, no. It can be really tough.
It was just a different challenge. So I think the fantasy that you have to be careful of, and I do think it is true sometimes that some people feel better and their life improves after they get out of a marriage that was toxic or terrible. I do think that's, of course, true at times. And it's also true that whatever pain you're experiencing in your marriage that's not working, you're going to experience pain. It's just going to be different outside of your relationship.
Especially if you have kids and you have to keep trying to work together on some level.
Because if you chose to have kids, you're choosing to be co-parents for life. So you're in a relationship with this person for life. And that might not necessarily get any easier at all.
Right.
It might get even harder, actually.
It might get even harder.
Because now they're parenting in a way that you completely is just terrible to you. And you have no power. You have no influence. You have no say. So there's a lot of challenges either way.
Yeah.
So I think that's important for you to come at this from a deep place of sobriety.
Yeah. And the support, getting support, because again, we live in a society where there's so little support for families around this, and people, divorced parents in particular, get really isolated, and that's not great for parents.
Yeah.
And it's just not great for humans anyway. And then you're putting parenting on top of it and the stress of post-divorce life. And it's just really tough. And again, we need a societal shift here. But until we have that, I think we could all just appreciate that, separating from romantic partnerships, that half of us are not going to be doing that long term with the first person we have kids with, let's say, is not abnormal. Yeah. It's normal. It's maybe there's even like a biological set point in the population around that, in some ways. And so we're more in the business of not keeping people together at all costs, but definitely seeing like, we realize people have invested a lot in a partnership.
Yeah.
If it's been a long time. And then if you add kids onto that, you've invested even more. So we want to help people have, if they can salvage or rework or revision their partnership, that's an awesome and inspiring thing to be a part of as a practitioner. And sometimes that can happen. And sometimes people just get really clear that like, wow, we want really different things. We didn't realize that when we got together. Yeah. We thought we were on the same page. We've grown and changed, or, we just didn't know what we didn't know, and we need to part ways because it doesn't make sense. We're not on the same page anymore. Yeah. We can't force it. And so sometimes in that process, if you're considering getting divorced, you at least divorce knowing why versus blaming yourself or your partner. Yeah. And then not feeling like you had any control over that, and then getting with the next person and not really understanding like, oh, there's things we need to be talking about and doing as a couple to really make sure to the best of our abilities. We can't always know what's going to happen in the future. Of course, we can never know fully, but are we really a good fit to commit to each other in these bigger ways?
Yeah. I just want to say that again about walking away, not pointing the finger at the other person or yourself, and instead just taking responsibility for how you contributed to things. Getting to where they are, I think, is way wiser. I think it's very disempowering to point the finger at the other person, because it's like, would you want to date that person that's pointing the finger at their ex? Like, yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't do a thing. It was like they were a nightmare. Yeah. It's like, I would steer clear of dating those kind of people who are blaming their ex for everything. Yeah. It's just a disempowered way of living, I think. Like, if you're going to do relationships well in your life, you understand that you are contributing to any of the problems that happen. You probably have a part in there. Yeah. In your friendships, at work, family relationships.
And it doesn't mean you're a bad person or something's wrong with you. It's like we all, growing up is learning how to recognize our human limitations and things we struggle with, and we can't be good at everything or know everything, and we're still okay. Yeah. We can keep growing and developing anyway. And I know we like helping people get into that, because that's just you have so much more choice from that place.
Yeah. 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 So try to get help sooner than later, and have this growth learning mindset that we obviously talk a lot about. Yeah. That way, when you lose, you at least gain learning.
Yeah. That's valuable.
Okay, folks. Thanks for subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Thanks for leaving a comment, and be well.
Thank you.